Welcome to the Old Lady Hour with Lorrie and Sheryl. This episode is part 2 of 3 parts with Scott McQueen. Enjoy. And now, here's Lorrie Lane.
We're back from our break, and I want to tell everyone that this episode is still brought to you by Overly Helpful Helene. When you need someone to be overly helpful, call Helene.
Helene!
We're working on that. So we're here with Scott McQueen, and we're talking about art and history and
all kinds
Fayette,
of
and art shows. So we're back now. We wanted to go back to when you were 13 and on your bicycle and visiting Mr. Jimmy Lee Sudduth. You want to tell a little bit more about the details of that?
Yeah, well, it was the summer after the 7th grade, and I had met a friend who actually dug mud for Mr. Jimmy. And there was another young man who had dug mud for Jimmy who drowned that same year, that same summer, out in the Sipsey River. And he was the primary kid that kind of was a sidekick and helped and just helped him dig mud. And so this other guy, though, he also would help. And he had told me one day, he said, well, if you'll ride your bike to town, and I lived on one end of town, and then, Mr. Sudduth lived way out the other direction and going. And he says, if you'll ride, though, to the edge, the end of town over here on this side, I'll take you up to his place and introduce you. And so that was the first chance that I ever got to go and see and visit with him. And I remember, I remember he was painting a Toto dog.
Okay.
The little white dog, or
right.
They were basically, they could be. There are very few, and I'm saying few rare Totos that are other colors than white. Almost every one of you sees white. But there have been some other colors over the years, but he just didn't. He just stuck with white dog predominantly. And but he was painting that dog, and I thought it was crazy. It didn't really. It looked like you might could make it out as a dog if you turn your head sideways and squint, But he would tell us. He was telling us about, or telling me really about that story, about his dog, and that he had a whole bunch of them. He named all of his dogs Toto.
That's really funny.
And one would get, because he lived out there, he'd say, I got hit. And he said, well, I'm going to get me another one. I said, what'd you name? Toto.
Toto?
He says, yeah, it's a whole lot easier just to remember that one name. He said, I don't have to remember 100 dogs' names.
Good point.
So every one of them was Toto. And so anytime you see one of those paintings of that dog, that's Toto.
Okay.
But he was painting a Toto that day, and I remember what caught my attention that I had long forgotten was that he finger painted everything. And he finger painted. And I remember asking him, I said, I asked him, I said, Mr. Jimmy, why don't you use a paintbrush? And he kind of spun around, looked at me kind of funny, and he wiggled his fingers, And he said, "What?" He said, "God done give me 10." and then he's gonna crack a joke, and he pointed down to his feet, and he said, "I guess he gave me 20." He said, "But I only use these 10, and maybe 1 or 2 at a time." And then he just let out a belly laugh. He thought it was so funny, and I'm just sitting there looking at him, kind of, I'm just processing it. I'm like, "Is he joking? What?"
What?
And then a little later he said, "What am I going to do with a stick?" His brother, he said, "Stick." What am I going to do with a stick? He said, "I'm not going to, I won't do that." So he didn't use that. And I tell people, I say, if you ever looking at a Sudduth and you see where his name or something, or anything, if you see a brush stroke on there,
it's not his.
You better not touch it, because it's not his. It's I mentioned Jack Black earlier, and from what I understand, I was told that Jack Black is the man who showed him how to write his name. You know, Mr. Jimmy was illiterate. And so, and it got a little better. He never spelled his name right. If you look, you'll never find it spelled right. But the earliest stuff, it looks like it's just S-U-D-D, like Sud.
Okay.
It'll say
Yeah.
like Jim
Yeah,
Sud.
close enough.
And then maybe a line or something over
uh-huh.
there. But then as it got a little better, he'd go Jim, and then S-U-D-D, and then a T and an H. But he always used to leave that U out. And if I ever found one that had the U in there, I wouldn't buy it. Because I never ever saw one.
Well, that's good to
through
know
there.
for
And-
people looking for
Well,
authentic.
And I tell folks too that he signed with a pencil. He always had a pencil. He would draw. A lot of times he'd take, like he did a lot on Luan plywood, plywood. And some of that plywood would come from construction workers. They'd bring scraps and stuff to him. And he got a lot of his stuff that way. And they would cut it for him a lot of times. And so he had a lot of 2x2, 24 inches, 24-inch square stuff. But he would take a pencil and kind of draw sometimes, especially if he was doing like a house, like a building or a house. And you'll see sometimes, or a cabin, and you'll see when you go in there, if you look at it closely, you can see the pencil where he's kind of giving himself a little outline to get the pitch of the roof right, or whatever.
So he would use a pencil, but not
He used
not
a pencil,
brush.
but he didn't paint with it. He didn't paint. He painted with his fingers, but he did use a pencil, and he signed with a pencil or with a chalk. And so sometimes I had a lady one time asking me. She says that it's not. She brought a painting over to the studio that I have, and she's like, "I think this is Sudduth, but there's no name anywhere." And I thought he signed everything with a pencil, and I said, "No, he signed with chalk sometimes."
And the chalk will
and I
rub
said,
off.
"That chalk will rub off over time." I said, "I wouldn't be scared of that." I said, "I'm looking at the work itself." I said, "I wouldn't be scared of that."
Sure.
So, but everything's a
Right.
You never know. It's all subjective anyway.
It is. So, I mean, I think that's interesting now that you are, well, I guess we mentioned something about your first art fair, the Fayette Art Fair.
Yes.
And you went ahead and did it.
I did it, and I was going to, in finishing that story,
Yeah.
I won Best in Show.
Oh, you won Best in Show first right off.
First, I've only won Best in Show in one other show in my life, and I was and that one wasn't a true. It was Best in Show, but they actually had three They had a Best in Show for this division, that division, the other. And so it was up in Paducah. It was what they call it. It was
Paducah's
Lower
a big-
Town. It was a nice show, really nice show. I didn't think matter of fact, I wasn't even standing around when they were offering. I had piddled around and was looking at somebody else's booth, and when I come wandering up, they're like, "Where have you been?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "I don't know. I've just been kind of piddling around, fixing to go." But and they said, "You just won," and so, anyways, but that other than the Paducah kind of 3-in-1 Best in Show, whatever it was, that's the only Best in Show. It was the very first show I ever did, and I went to one of the people later, and I said, "You got to swear to me." I said, "I know I'm from Fayette. That's not." I said, "That didn't have any." And they said, "No, it didn't have any bearing in it. You had new stuff. It was different. We hadn't seen anything like it."
So So I mean, you're starting at the top at that point.
Well, yeah, that's kind of bad. Start at the top now. Where to go but down? But
I had something back in 1999 when I was trying to figure out what I was doing with art. I entered the Florence Kennedy Douglas Center for the Arts show.
familiar.
And not the one outside.
Not the park, but the gallery.
The gallery show.
Yeah,
And I got a painting in, and it was a big landscape, and I took it up there, and my husband and I were going up for the reception, and we just like have a nice night out, and I saw like there was a ribbon by it, and it just was like first place. And I'm like, oh, first place in like painting or like, oh no, it was the top prize. So I started off there and like, yeah, then I couldn't really do it again. It's like,
What's up with that?
And I don't know. It was just like, I actually did the second year and got 2 in, which was fine. And it led to a whole lot of other things. But it's just like it was at a point where I really I needed that little boost.
And and likewise, I was, I was just getting started, and I almost didn't go. And so for me to go, to put stuff in, and to I was just flabbergasted. I literally just, I could not believe it. And there were some good artists there that year. There was 60 artists that were there, and so regardless, it meant a lot to me at that time, and I was, and still does. I was like, wow.
Well,
I
you
can't
wouldn't
believe
have gotten it if you didn't deserve it.
Right, that's right.
But yeah.
Well, but I think we get used to, as artists, we get used to kind of battling ourselves, the world, the, critics, and you get used to, in my case anyway, I get used to disappointment. Right. So sometimes when something works out, or you get a prize, or you get a nice sale or anything, it's almost disturbing.
Right. Yeah. Like,
yeah. Like
what's wrong with this picture?
Something is wrong.
Yeah.
And I'll get very disturbed by it. So I'm just, yeah.
Well, I was quite pleased. It was unexpected, but it was exactly what I needed in the area of confidence.
Yes.
And so then I could, and I was still pastoring churches when that happened. That wasn't, that was
right.
Early on. I was pastoring churches until, let's say, through 2015.
Okay. So yeah.
I was doing shows
right.
2011, 12, 13, 14, and up to 15 through summer of 15. But the shows that I was doing were primarily Saturday only shows, or Saturday Sunday shows that were close enough that I could leave take an off day on a Friday and drive, do the show, and get back.
Because you had plenty of other things to do.
Right. Well, I would take I had a few weeks, vacation after being in I
Sure.
was at this church I was at, the last one. I was there for 10 and a half years, 11 years.
And they wanted you to take more time off.
Right. And so I had some vacation time. So every once in a while I would take the Sunday off. I wouldn't just do a Saturday show. I would do like Saturday, Sunday. But I still wasn't driving, it really wasn't long distance type stuff.
Unless let's jump way ahead to now. And like last year, this year, the shows that you're doing now, because it's so different from then.
Right.
So how many, you are doing a lot of the
I did 24 shows last year.
And so for people that don't know what this is, these are shows that are outside pretty much.
I would have said 95%.
So you
98% are outside shows.
So you have to go, you have to set up, you have to have the work, first of all.
Have the work available, and that's biggie.
So 24 shows, that's 24 weeks basically on the
every
road.
other week. If you knock out, you knock out Thanksgiving and Christmas, that's every other week. That's 48,
So 24 shows is insane. So you said you're a workaholic. I'm going to say that's
yes,
part
and
of it.
it is so.
Yeah.
I was painting this morning, and when I leave here, I'll go back and be painting this afternoon.
So what are some of the notable shows you've done? I know you talked about one that you can't ask to be in.
Farrington.
That's right.
Farrington is kind of it's the show that I still have to pinch myself. I'm surprised that I'm honored to be in that show.
And that's in North Carolina?
It's in North Carolina. It's just about 5 or 6 miles south of Chapel Hill in a little place called Farrington Village. It's not even incorporated, but it's a beautiful landscaped, like a barn, like a wedding chapel, and surrounding it is huge just
So
it's
kind of a residential area.
It's beautiful, but then when you drive up to it, they have all these belted Galloway cows that are basically they look like Oreo cookies. They're black with a white belt around them, and they have these belted Galloway cows and belted goats. They've got a lot of different animals and stuff, and people. It's just a really cool place. That I didn't know existed.
And you have to get invited to this show.
You have to be invited, and I had an artist tell me years ago, and I've had artists who've asked me the same thing since, and they're like, how do I get into that show? I said, don't ask. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, no, literally, don't ask. Don't ask them. Don't call.
The organizers for the show do not want you to ask. They want to be the ones to ask.
What they do, to be honest, is they ask the artists that are invited to supply a name of someone that they feel would be a good fit. There's only 30 artists invited. There's only 30.
And so it's really...
And you basically get to go back year after year unless you act like a moron.
So I mean,
you know what I'm saying.
So they're
waiting on one of us folk artists. Somebody's got to opt out or die or something.
This is a very exclusive show, and
it is.
and then you do. I bet it runs the gamut. So you do ones with. Well, what's the biggest show on that for a number of artists?
The biggest show that I do.
Yes, the number of artists, not.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know. There's several that are big. I mean, I don't do anything that's just stupid, crazy big. Like a lot. I mean, a lot of those are up north and things.
Okay.
And I don't want to travel up that far. The furthest north I've ever gone, I've done Cincinnati, one in St. Louis. Distance-wise, going to North Carolina takes forever.
That's pretty far, east from
But
here.
as far as big shows, the Fairhope, but it's 2 shows.
Right, that's right.
When most people don't realize that, I'm amazed at how many locals don't realize that's 2 shows.
It's 2 shows, but it's all on one
It's all
area. It's all downtown.
Right,
Fairhope.
you don't know when you've walked from one to the other,
right?
Unless you're really observant to notice that the way the booths are set up.
And you can know if you're. I was a judge for the show this year for the
Fairhope Art and Craft.
For the Art and Craft show.
And then I was in the other one, Eastern Shore.
So that's the only way I knew where there was, a difference, because they told me. I didn't have to judge yours.
The booths are all in the middle of the street for the Fairhope Art and Craft. And then when you walk, you just literally walk across an intersection, and then all of a sudden the booths are on the side of the street, and you have the big open middle of the road.
Right, that's it.
And that's how you know the difference.
But otherwise, hard to tell. So when
that's a big one. Kentuck's a big.
Kentuck's pretty big.
Kentuck is
200
that's not
booths?
slouchy. Yeah, a little more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think there's like 250 or something.
Oh yeah, that's right.
270.
270. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
So it's a lot of different booths and a lot of different artists. So when you're did you decide at some point you're just going to do a lot of art fairs, or did it kind of happen gradually?
Well, some of it happened gradually in the sense that while I was, again, when I was as a pastor, I had to limit how many shows I could do. I didn't have time to create the art. And so, I was doing 5 or 6 shows a year.
Which is still a lot.
But it didn't feel like that. And I was always wanting to, I was like, man, I wish our show would hurry up and get here. But there was like 5 or 6, but I just couldn't, there wasn't enough of me to go around to continue to do that and do my job well. Once, when I left the church and went as a hospice chaplain, the way that I did my work changed. During the day from 8 to 5, I was definitely doing the hospice work, right? But it was Monday through Friday.
Right. So you had weekends free.
I had weekends free, and so and if I pushed hard, I could get my Friday schedule, I might could ease out a little early or have it be finished up, because you're really making visits as a chaplain. You're making the visits, and so you've got a caseload.
Yes.
But once you're done with that, and so I would make those visits, do what I was doing, and then take off and go do a show. And sometimes I've had a vacation day, I'd take a Monday off, which allowed me to drive even further, and then I could come back on Monday.
And then you were making things in between.
Then I was making things at night, and I was working like crazy, and I had a shop out back of the house, which I'm back in.
Okay.
But I had a building put back there and run electricity and all that kind of thing to it, and air conditioning and what have you, and that became my shop. And so I was making stuff then left and right. I got out of the house, and my wife was really happy about that. And so I was increasing my workload, and then but I was really wanting to do the art. I know, while hospice is a true calling, and it's in and of itself, and what a noble work it is, and it's not an easy work.
No, it is not.
If you pour yourself into whatever it is you're doing, and that's the way I am. I can't half.
Right.
I don't half do it. It's maybe the workaholic part of me or whatever. It's just it's my wiring. That's why I do 24 art shows.
Right.
It's just I can't half do it.
If you're doing something, you're going to do it completely.
But it was killing me.
The hospice work.
The hospice was killing me.
It just emotionally.
I wanted to help people, but I was coming home just broken over these people. Because I was taking it so to heart, and some of the nurses and different ones, the same thing that I would notice, but then there were some that I'm like, I don't know how to turn this off.
Yes.
And for me, I couldn't turn it off, and so it was taking its toll. And what it was doing is it was making me callous.
Okay.
I was to try to.
You had to numb yourself to
right. It was
survive.
making me really callous, and I could see it in other areas of my life where that was affecting me, and I knew that I can't do this long term.
Okay.
I just knew I couldn't.
And that's good to know.
Yeah, I was being honest with myself.
Right. You had already made a big change from being the pastor of a large church.
Well, I couldn't step out of being pastor of a larger church, take care of my family, just go and be, I'm going to start painting folk art. I mean, I was doing some shows, but it was more, it was.
So that hospice was a good in-between, but.
It was.
But it turned out to be just too much.
Right, because I didn't know when I went to hospice that I thought I had a good situation because I could do the art shows and enjoy, but then I could do the hospice. But the longer I stayed with it, it was like a snowball effect. It took a while, but it just started piling up, and it was, just around death. So,
and I think that's interesting. You say you not like that you're overwhelmed emotionally, but that you get callous. I think that's a really interesting, way to understand that it's overwhelming.
Yeah, so, you just realized, or I realized, I was just like, for my own health, I've got to do something different.
So then you did just jump right into being, and so.
Well, I knew that well, what happened was, I knew I had done a little bit of stuff with Kentuck, and they had invited me to come and do a little show, and so I had got to meet some of those people. I hadn't met them. I had been doing the show.
Yes.
Now, when I was still pastor, I was applying for Kentuck, never get in.
Okay.
I had like a lot of these people bitch and complain, never get in. Well, I'm one of those. That took me.
And for some of our listeners who don't know, sometimes they just think of Kentuck as a festival itself, but there's grounds and there are studios there for year round.
Right.
So,
it's a year round. Yeah. It's a year-round presence.
Yes, but you're applying to the festival.
I was applying to the festival and couldn't get in. And it would aggravate the stew out of me, but I kept trying. It took like 3 times to do that, but I did get in. But and have been in ever since. But what happened was I was still at hospice, but I realized that the little storefront that has the big red dog
in front.
It was empty.
Yeah, it was.
And I was driving by there, and I kept seeing it empty. And so I just decided one day I was going to go in, and I had met some of these people that were there, but I didn't really know any, to say I knew them.
Yeah.
Didn't really know them. They didn't know anything about me other than,
Right.
oh, you know, we invited you to come and do a little thing, but they
Right.
do that quiet.
Yeah.
But I went in and I was like, okay, what do I got to do to get in this place? And they were like, well, we've got other people. Look, I said, I didn't ask you. I said, look, I've got to make a change. And I said, I need this. I said, this will open a lot of doors for me. It will. I said, I've got to I can't have a plan B. I said, that's not how I work. I don't operate with plan A's and plan B's. There's no contingent plan. I've got to, I said, I'm willing to jump off this ledge, and it is literally sink or swim. And so we talked about it, and they eventually they called me and said, hey, we voted or met or whatever they do, you know, I mean, cast their lots, whatever. And they said, you know, and I told them sure. And so I gave my notice at a hospice, and so the rest is history.
And
And when was this?
That was in June of 2018.
That's right. Yeah, because I remember I was still there.
Yeah, you were there.
I was still there for a little while.
Yeah, yeah.
We overlapped a little
Everybody,
bit.
yeah, everybody that was, what was strange is I was like this new person coming in, and I was like, wow, I was like, all these folks have been there a while, and they all seemed to know, and everybody really good at what they were doing, and here I am, this, you know, new guy coming in. You know, I had done some shows and stuff, but this, you know, I was like, you know, still kind of wide-eyed, and then all of a sudden everybody's like popcorn. They're all popping. They're all leaving.
They're all leaving, right?
Like crap, you're leaving me. What? So it went
did
from
I
being
say?
I went from being a rookie to
You were like the senior member.
then I
pretty
was a
fast.
senior. Yeah,
Which happens is
it worked out okay.
It does. It's the studio practice for a lot of artists it's difficult in a small place
Yeah.
where there's not a lot of support. So,
Yeah.
but that's
True.
that's a whole other story.
Right.
But here we are. So, but
Yeah.
and you're working back at your house now. But
I'm-
in those years of having a studio,
It was great.
It strikes me that you really enjoy being out with people.
I do.
Like, there are a lot of artists that are more introverted
Right.
and really prefer to work, you know, alone, not in.
There's a lot of reclusive artists, but
Yeah.
I'm not one of
You are not
those.
one, and I appreciate that because I am not either, which is why I have a storefront so
Right.
that people can come in and they don't. I get really upset.
I know.
I'm like, well, what's wrong with me? Why aren't you coming in and talking to me?
I
So
understand.
I'm just putting a little plug for, you know, anytime you want
Y'all
to
need
come
to
over.
walk in.
Yeah, just come on over. You don't have to buy anything. I just need company.
2420.
2420 Gary Fitz Street, downtown Tuscaloosa. Right now we're on a summer schedule, so we don't have really hours, but I'm here.
Shameless plugs right there.
Yeah, I'm really here.
I don't blame you.
I'm here all the time. I'm also a workaholic.
And easy to find.
Easy to
Yeah.
find. So,
Come on in.
but anyway.
But yeah, I was that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really made a difference for me to be at Kentuck under the big red dog, and in a lot of ways, it validated, for one, it validated to me and to others the art, what I was
'Cause
creating.
you're now part of a studio. You're a studio artist for an art organization.
That's considered that is
it had some-
highly esteemed and
Yes.
considered among peers,
Right,
the community.
and people who know about it, you know, like, okay, and now you're not just like a hobbyist at your house.
Right. So that was one big thing. Secondly, was there were artists that were coming in and out of there all the time. You know, they have new shows every other month, and there were some big name artists that were coming in and out
Definitely.
of there. And so I had opportunity sitting right there at that front door. It seemed like they always parked right in front of my spot, right in front of my building, and they would be unloading their art. And 2 months later, they're back, loading back the unsold art from their show. Well, I would try best I could to go out and greet these people, to meet them, introduce and what have you, and so I was able in turn to build some relationships with some big name artists, which helped me along the way and allowed me to have opportunities that I might not otherwise have, like a Farrington.
Like the Farrington, and I think partly when you're like talking to artists who are just starting out, some of the advice is you won't know what you don't know till you do it.
Right.
So there is really just jump into it, because there's no manual really for this. I mean, you can get advice, but it's going to be different for each artist.
You got to pay your dues.
You got to start off, kind of maybe small, and you're going to have some bad shows, and you're going to have a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
That's just part of it. Maybe some people don't, but and particularly if you're doing it without, I don't know, like, a big name New York gallery behind you or whatever,
Right.
which we don't
No,
yet.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
So what are some of when you go to an art fair, some of the, I'm thinking some of the fun of that is just meeting with a lot of the other artists who are there.
There's shows that I really enjoy attending, and participating in and with other artists. And then there's some shows that's strictly business. The shows that I really enjoy are like Farrington. There's 30 artists. Every person there is an accomplished folk artist or outsider artist. I would say, well, out of all those 30, I'm somewhere down here. I mean, it's only I've only been twice, and I've done this twice. There's some that's been doing it for 20 and 30 years, ever since its beginnings. And so it's amazing to get to be with those artists. But I love that. Finsterfest, which is in Somerville, Georgia, the home of Howard Finster. It's an invited show. It's curated by the folks out of High Museum in Atlanta.
Right. And Howard Finster's a huge name.
Well, Howard Finster is kind of he's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of folk artists, and probably the preeminent as far as a 20th century folk artist. And so at his place they have the Finsterfest, which is a wonderful show. And when I first started doing it, there were about 60 artists, and they've opened up an area, and there's about 70, I think.
Okay,
now.
but still kind of
Still small.
Right.
But I know all of these people, and so it's a lot of fun, because it's almost like a family reunion.
It does. It's a community.
It's my tribe.
It is your tribe.
Does that make sense? It's my tribe.
Absolutely.
But I go to shows and do shows where I'm not with my tribe.
Okay.
I'm with fellow artists, but I know very few of them. They don't know me. It could be a big show, but it's
more a business.
That's why I say it's a business trip.
Which you have to do.
Which I'm trying to make a living.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that is, again, the perception for artists is often that we don't somehow need money.
Yeah, that we've all retired. And I'm glad you're retired and you get to do this as a hobby. I'm like, crap, what are you talking about?
Yeah, or, so it's, this is...
this is my full-time job.
This is a business, and
I have a mortgage payment.
Right, and we also, we have to know how to run a small business. We're self-employed, we have to figure out tax forms and so on and so forth. So, that's just part of it.
It is.
And so you also must interact with the public. They come in to buy, and so what is that like?
They're in all shapes and sizes, and every kind of. It's crazy. I mean, by and large, I think my former life as a minister helped me as far as interaction.
No doubt.
Because you never knew what was coming through the door there either.
So I'm sure you're very diplomatic.
Try to be. I'm not as. I find that I'm less diplomatic now than I used to be. I don't have a lot of. There's only so much that the Baptist minister, that you want to say or can say or feel like you should say.
But now you're not, so.
So now, you can tell somebody if they're really annoying, just to turn around the way you walked in and walk right back out there.
Yeah, because I think people, maybe there's an etiquette to walking into someone's booth.
There is an etiquette to
And
that.
so not everyone
And
understands
there's a lot,
it.
and most people don't understand it. And I will try to help people with some of that. I mean, now, but there's always.
Well, I think what's nice about an art fair is it's really accessible.
Yes.
So as opposed to, I feel like even though my very low-level studio gallery, I try to be as open and friendly as possible, it does intimidate some people.
Right.
And so it shouldn't be, but there it is. And you're like, no, don't touch anything. I'm like, no, you can pick it up. It's a store too. And you might get wet paint on you, but otherwise it's fine. And so I think the art fair is like it's a different atmosphere, and you're out there with,
Okay, so what is the proper etiquette for
Okay,
walking
so we're-
into someone's booth?
So we're gonna go over that.
Well, there's several things. I mean,
One of it's just like normal politeness.
just be polite. I mean, you may walk in a booth and you look at someone's art and you're like, you're thinking to yourself, I love this, or you're thinking to yourself, I hate this. Mm-hmm. And you may run that. It may. No, most artists, you walk in, you're not going to just like, I hate it. But there are people, there's things, there are people, but when you voice that, that you're kind of, that's not cool.
Right.
I mean, so if you can't, it's kind of one of the things that you was told, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything, And a second thing, a little bit of etiquette is for the person who walks in off the street, and then they look at your art, and then they say, if you had painted just this, if you had added a little bit of yellow there,
God, no.
or if you'd have just decided to do, why did you put that up there? If you had done this, and then that's not cool.
All right, let me ask you a question, a specific question about etiquette.
Okay.
If I walk into somebody's booth and I'm looking around and I see stuff I really, really like, but let's just say I'm not a people person and I can't afford their art, so I turn around and walk out without even acknowledging the artist. Am I a bad person?
You're not. I wouldn't say you're a bad person.
I
for
think
doing
I
that.
should probably tell the artist that I really like their stuff. But then I walk out empty-handed. Is that bad?
No, because most of the people that walk into my booth walk out empty-handed if I'm at a show.
It's
because
not.
there's no way. I mean, it's a numbers. I mean, just from a business standpoint, it is a numbers. You get it. You got to be in front of a lot of people. You want to be in front of the right people, and that's kind of knowing your show, which is something else. But for me, you want to be in front of people. So it's okay that. I mean, if I have 1,000 people come in the booth or 10,000 people, I mean, some of the shows, I only have so many pieces of art. I'm not going to sell to everybody, so I know they're not going to all buy, but I want to be in front of as many as I can. What most people may not understand is that artists, we're welcoming, we're at the show to show.
Right.
We want to sell, but we're at the show to show. We most of us have business cards or some way that you can take a snapshot or picture or something, and you can find us on a website or because you might be a buyer later.
That's right.
And so we welcome people coming in. I don't know if too many artists are like, if you ain't buying something, get out of here. I mean, maybe some. I'm sure there are some, but I'm not one of those, and I don't know of many that are.
Okay.
But
specifically, if I really like the art, do I need to verbalize that?
No, you don't need to, but it'd be.
But I should.
It's not.
It's appreciated. I don't think you should, but it's appreciated.
It is definitely appreciated.
And you know what? Here's another thing. If you show an interest in the art, you never know where that artist's mindset is on that particular day.
Yeah.
I know firsthand. I mean, there was I'm thinking of a situation right now where there was a young lady who came into my into my booth, and she kept looking at a piece, and it's just a little piece of folk art, but you could tell it was stirring her, moving her, and I've seen, and I, but she was like, you knew she wanted it,
Right.
You knew, I knew she couldn't get it, or I felt like she couldn't get it, and so I gave her the piece.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not saying that happens all the time. I'm not saying
Right.
that happens even often necessarily, because it's not, because you can't just give away all your artwork
That's right.
and then still make a living too. But there are those times, and if somebody is really stirred by something, a lot of times you can, I don't, now, there's a difference between asking for a discount and you're dripping in
Right.
I have these guys a lot of times, you do any better price, and they got this old, they got this
right.
black onyx ring,
Right.
it's the size of their head,
Yeah.
and, and you can look at them and tell, and they're wearing a gold chain, they're and trying to beat you down.
Right.
I cannot stand those folks.
Yeah.
I hate to say it that way, but it's just like,
Well, what is the point, really? It's just a power play.
It is. It really is. Because I'm like, do you really do you want the art, or is it just you want to just see if you can control me?
Yeah, that's the difference. But I think, artists can, if you just would come in and say, well, I really love this, it's really beautiful, or something like that, yeah, it can make your day. It doesn't.
It can.
It doesn't necessarily, so it's just all part of it.
Right.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. It's just, there's also, I usually identify myself as a fellow artist if I'm just walking around, just so they know I'm not necessarily, sometimes artists also buy art from other people, but also maybe just to say, I'm not your best customer, I'm just
Right.
appreciative, or I'm in the tribe.
Right.
And not get out of the way when there's a paying customer.
Right.
So there's that sort of thing.
Well, that's part of the etiquette as well is, if somebody's in there telling you about, there's always those folks who come in and they have their cell phone and they want to show you what they painted.
I hate that.
And so they're going to show you what they painted.
Yeah.
And they want you to see how they could have, should have, might have, been in your spot on this place.
Right.
There's a lot of that.
So there's a lot of that. And that's not, there's a time and a place maybe if the artist is receptive to it, but a lot of times they don't ask, and sometimes they'll say, well, do you want to see something? And it's according to how busy. If I'm busy, I'm like, I would love to, but I just don't. I said, why don't you text me that, here's my card.
Right.
You can always text me, send me a
Right.
picture of, photo of that. And I said, I'd love to see it later, but I'm swamped.
Right.
But a lot of times you'll have somebody who come in and they're monopolizing the time, and there's people coming in looking at art.
Right.
They're buyers,
That's right.
potentially. This person is not a buyer. They're just
Right.
wanting they need their ego.
Right.
But I'm not being I'm not a counselor. I'm not there to be their
That's right.
counselor. And
What do you like most about doing festivals?
well, we've talked about all this other, but really, it is meeting the people. I like the interaction. I like the sales. Don't get me wrong. I love the sales. That's how I live.
And the sales too are like connecting a person with you in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like you like to see where the art goes. You kind of get. I like to, a little bit about what they're doing. I ask them a lot of times, hey, when you hang this on the wall, take a photo and tag me in it on my Facebook page or Instagram.
I've noticed that you tend to take photographs of people as they're buying your stuff.
I do that. I don't do it at every show, but I try to do that. If my wife is with me, if Jackie's with me, she's better at doing those photographs.
Okay.
It's just hard for me to do it if I'm by myself at a show.
Yeah.
And try to get the photographs and get them on. And plus, she's a little more knowledgeable about getting all that stuff put on Facebook or Instagram or something. And I can do it, but it's like archaic.
It's kind of fun seeing those photos, though.
Well, it is, and it's kind of neat, and it allows people to, they're proud of what they're purchasing, and they're happy about it. And the ones I like is, again, the people that'll take a photo and send it back, and they've got it hanging in a prominent place or put it somewhere that it's important. But it's that kind of thing. I mean, I tell folks, I don't go out and deer hunt and all that sort of thing. A lot of people do, but I hear folks that are out there deer hunting, and they're, the adrenaline of going and the kind of the hunt. And in a sense, a show for me is an adrenaline rush of sort. It really is. People, it's not just the sale, but it's all of it. It's just it is.
It's a big event. It's kind of so there's all kinds of elements, including weather. So See, you do have to be prepared for all kinds of weather.
I'm going this weekend up to Berea, Kentucky, and it is going to be hellaciously hot, I'm afraid. If it's and when it's not hot, it's going to be raining on us.
Okay,
but hey, 3 days, a Friday through Sunday, we're going to do it.
So see, it's a camping kind of with art, like, so it's got lots of different elements,
all the components to it that you can imagine, and then some. Yeah, and then you never know. I mean, I've about burned up, and remember one year in Atlanta in August, I did a show at Piedmont Park, and I was like, oh God, if I ever get away from here, I'm not coming back to this one. I have not been back to that show.
I helped Liz with a Piedmont Park show, and we about died.
It is so freaking hot.
It was the wrong time of year to be in Atlanta.
Yeah, God, what was I thinking? But yeah, I've done that, and then I've done some shows where it was just like frigid, but that's part of being outside. You never know. I was in Memphis last year, out on the street. We did a little one-day Cooper Young show, but it's crazy. There's a lot of people come through there, and a big show. It's a little everything. It's kind of hodgepodge, but I do well at it. But there was the hurricane that was coming up last year, and I was like, we're just going to get blown away, And the night before, the wind was blowing and everything was nuts, and it was running literally over the city. What was crazy was on the day of, because it was a Saturday only, and I was so thankful that usually don't like setting up the day of, but we set up on Saturday morning. Everybody's out there about 5:30 in the morning setting up, 6 o'clock. So about setting up, it was sprinkling rain and kind of just that old rainy stuff. But then the eye of the storm went over Memphis. And so it was pretty and calm and quiet. The whole show.
Wow.
Got the show tore down. And when I was putting the last bit into the vehicle and closing up the back and everything, it started pouring down again. Wow. So that was crazy.
It was lucky.
Yeah, it's lucky. We'd just say, that was unbelievable. But but I've been through that. I've been at when tornadoes came through, I've never lost a tent, but I've had one damaged, had to buy some new pieces. You got to have a lot of weights.
Yeah, a lot of weights.
More than you think.
Yep. Yeah,
and if you're going to the coast, you better have a whole lot of weights.
That show at Fairhope this year was extremely windy.
If you're going to Fairhope, one of those days is going to be a tornadic, I'm telling you.
It was definitely. So we're going to take another break and come back with more of Scott.
Wow. Okay. If y'all can put up with me.
Y'all, it's going to be a long break because this is the end of part 2 of 3 with Scott McQueen. Thanks for listening. Come back in a few days and hear the very compelling third part with Scott McQueen. Thank you.